What's up everybody? In this video we're going to be diving into how good the a7R III really is. And in my view, it might just be the best hybrid mirrorless interchangeable lens camera ever, if not one of the best interchangeable lens cameras ever. Let's get into it. The major let's start with the major differences between the Mark III and the Mark II. You're getting a stop more of dynamic range, you're getting 2 stops more of stabilization, enhanced IAF, 400 extra contrast detect autofocus points, 5 more frames per second, enhanced 4K especially in Super 35 mode with hybrid log gamma, an AF joystick, the A9 body including the 2 card slots, and the twice as long battery life. And really all of this is gonna end up to mean a whole lot more than what it sounds like on paper. But taking a step back for a minute, if this were a camera made by Canon, if this were the 5D Mark IV, for example, I would probably have tons of scathing things to say about it. But this is Sony, and Sony is dictated by a lot more logic than greed. And we can see that through Sony's consistent product design, and coming in at $3,200, it does actually blow away the 5D Mark IV. And, you know, that might be a comparison we can save for later, you know, when I need more content, whatever. And the reality of the situation is that, few though they were, the a7R III really addresses the glaring weaknesses of the a7R II. Primarily battery life, ergonomics with the A9 body including the AF joystick, and the 2 battery card slots. And the 2 card slots and the twice as long battery life, pardon me. The a7R III is actually a great camera to upgrade from the original A7R from. Maybe a little bit less so from the R2, but that actually makes a lot of sense and isn't useless product segmentation. And here's the difference between Sony and Canon. Sony has a very clear picture of what their product lines should and resultantly do look like. To get a better picture of that, let's detour to the Alpha 6000 line. I promise this will tie back in. The Alpha 6000 has 24 megapixels, 1080p 30, 1080p whatever, it doesn't really matter, it's just 1080. It's a perfectly adequate camera. The Alpha 6300 has way more autofocus points, has 4K 30, has 1080p 120, has 11 FPS, has S-Log, and the Alpha 6500 has all of the above with a 24 megapixel sensor, as well as IBIS, and a much deeper buffer. And out of the Alpha 6000 line of cameras, we have a very clear good, better, best model at $500, $900, and $1,300. You're getting exactly what you pay for. A ton of features that are all awesome. And immediately before we get into the a7R line, a continued diversion, I ask for your forgiveness. I think this is worth thinking about. The thing about Sony is that they're developing product lines, not necessarily individual products. If you were to wake up tomorrow without any bias whatsoever, you'd see something actually fairly remarkable, that the a7R line of cameras offers the full suite of features and functionality for your price, for your budget, and your needs. You can get whichever of those 3 cameras that you want, still have a fantastic camera, able to make incredible stills, and even pretty good video, even if you're only getting into the a7R. If only the pricing of paper towels and toilet paper made this much sense. The a7R, coming in at $2,000, has 36 megapixels, 4 frames per second, 1080p video, and 25 contrast detect autofocus points that, according to early reviews, actually stood up really well against DSLR autofocus systems. The a7R II has 42 megapixels, 5 FPS, 3.5 stops of IBIS, 4K 30, 399 on-sensor phase detect autofocus points, and comes in at $2,400. And now the a7R III has 42 megapixels, 10 FPS, better 4K 30, better oversampled 4K 30, especially on Super 35 mode, hybrid log gamma, 824 autofocus points, 399 of which are on-sensor phase detect, and 425 of which are contrast-based, which means that you have enhanced autofocus in every shooting scenario. You get two card slots and twice the battery life at $3,200. So what we're seeing is that much like the difference between the RX10 Mark III and the RX10 Mark IV, there's a lot of little tweaks in order to build a much better performing camera. Just like the RX10 Mark III to the RX10 Mark IV, we're seeing a lot of little tweaks to yield much better overall performance. Those more CDAF points, those contrast detect autofocus points, means better IAF and better autofocus in low light shooting scenarios. More frames per second means that the a7R III can be used in more demanding shooting situations and scenarios like a first look or the first kiss at a wedding. The hybrid log gamma makes this a fantastic B, even A camera for serious video production. The 2 card slots and twice as long battery life, as well as the battery grip from the A9, which can yield even better battery performance, means that you can shoot more and you can have much greater reliability out of this camera. 2 more stops of IBIS will make the a7R III a much more capable both stills and video camera. In low light, handheld, you're actually going to be able to use this very easily with, along with the reduced vibration shutter mechanism to yield very sharp, stunning images. You'll be able to capture every moment no matter the light. And for video, there's simply no better hybrid camera on the market. Use this for vlogging, for run and gun, no matter. The stabilization will smooth it all out. And hey, quickly before we dive into this last segment, I have had a video that hit about 400 likes. That was so cool to me. That was a huge milestone for me. I would really appreciate it if you would help me hit my next milestone of, let's call it 600 likes on a video. That would mean the absolute world to me, and I think that would be just such a cool thing to be able to have achieved. So I'm gonna thank you in advance, and if you're gonna like to smash the dislike button instead, I entirely understand. So for $3,200, the a7R III actually makes a ton of sense. It's a great camera. Am I a little bit let down that they didn't put 60 megapixels in there? Sure. Am I let down that it's not 12 frames per second? Sure. Am I let down that it doesn't have a 6K video mode? Sure. Am I let down that it doesn't have 693 on-sensor phase detect autofocus points? Sure. But let's be realistic, it doesn't need any of those things. This is still the best hybrid mirrorless interchangeable lens camera on the market, and probably top 5, if not top 3, of the best interchangeable lens cameras that are full frame on the market right now, if not ever. The a7R III makes worthy competition like the D850 not seem like as good of an option if you don't already own Nikon f-mount lenses. And if you have an adapter or elect to shoot with an adapter, even if you do have those Nikon f-mount lenses. The continual, consistent development of the A7R line of cameras has led to the point where the a7R Mark III not only shines very brightly, but is also the complete package for hybrid shooters. For shooters who do many types of photography, from professionals to enthusiasts. And crucially, when the a7R was released, there were 3 lenses in all of the FE mount. Now, there's a full suite of very high quality primes and zooms for both professionals and enthusiasts. In many ways, the a7R Mark III is a statement. In my opinion, it's the best hybrid camera on the market today. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention with me in this video. If you're gonna do any Christmas shopping upcoming on Amazon, I would really appreciate it if you take a look through my Amazon affiliate links below. Those will kick me back a small fee and not affect the price whatsoever. It would mean the absolute world to me.